Update. Neighbor 40 female keeps showing up unannounced to my 24 male house. I recently moved into a new house in a small gated community over the summer. This is the first time I've lived in a house since I was little. When I moved in, I received a lot of welcome gifts from neighbors since it's a very tight-knit community. This is how I met most of my neighbors, including Dana and her husband. Dana is my next-door neighbor. The first time we met, Dana came to my front door with her husband and 3 sons to introduce themselves. They brought me homemade cookies as a welcome gift. Her sons were really into dirt bikes and saw mine in the garage while I was moving in. I told them they could come over and check them out anytime they wanted. I was just being nice. Dana never really said anything or gave off any red flags. The next week, I was at work and got a motion notification from one of my cameras. It was video of Dana by herself looking into a window on the side of my house. I thought maybe she was checking to see if I was home and didn't think much of it. Later that day, I got a text from her asking when I'd be home since her sons wanted to come over and check out my bikes. I replied that I'd be working late and she responded that she'd let her sons know. Nothing else happened for a few weeks. The second event was on a Saturday night. She knocked on my front door and asked if I'd like to come over for dinner. I didn't really have much going on, so I said sure. I went over to her house, expecting her family to be there. Nope, it was just her. She said her family was visiting a relative. I didn't want to be rude, so I ended up staying. Dana is a big talker, so I barely got a word in that night. It felt strange, but it was just a conversation. A few days later, I saw her husband, Chris, while checking the mail. He asked me if I enjoyed Dana's cooking. I responded that it was great and that I wished he could have been there. So I guess he knew about us having dinner and was fine with it. The third event happened a few days ago. My camera caught Dana walking in my backyard by herself, looking into the shed. I confronted her on the phone and said she was just looking for a shovel. I informed her that my tools were in the garage and made sure to let her know I could see everything on my cameras. She apologized for not asking me before coming over. Later that day, she sent me a picture of my boat in a driveway, asking if I could take her out on it. I left her on red. The latest event happened last night. I had my somewhat new girlfriend over at the house. We were grilling in the backyard, having a good time, when all of a sudden, Dana showed up with her boys and literally self-invited her family to dinner. It was extremely awkward for everyone. I tried telling them that I didn't have enough for everyone, but Dana claimed her family wasn't that hungry. Dana didn't leave until my girlfriend left. I'm extremely confused if Dana is into me or just has no social awareness. The only thing keeping me from straight up confronting her is that we are neighbors and have to live next to each other. Her husband has been nice and doesn't give off any strange vibes. What do I tell her to leave me alone? Do I need to wait for her to do something again? Please help. Now for the top advice before reading the update. She's a taker. She just pushes and pushes, trying to get as much attention and crap as possible. Tell her to buzz off. Well, she's the HOA president, unfortunately. This woman thinks she owns your house. I hate neighbors like this. Opie said she's the HOA president. He's so screwed. Oh no. I was leaning heavy for her being into him, and that may still be the case. But there is undoubtedly some power tripping at play knowing she's the HOA president. Considering HOAs can sometimes get things escalated to the point of evicting people from their own homes, I'd be the wariest person in the neighborhood if I were Opie. Get blinds for your windows and keep them shut. Motion sensor lights. No trespassing signs. Get a security system. Just call the cops. Going into your property looking for a shovel is just testing the waters. Give her an inch and she'll take a mile and your life will be misery. Better she hates you than steals from you. I have blinds on the house. In the video, it looks like she was trying to find a window that was open. When I first was moving in, I left my garage open and went to lunch. A box of my clothes labeled clothes was missing. At the time, I thought maybe I lost it in the moving process, but now I think she had something to do with it. Oh, holy smokes. Nightmare scenario. I asked 2 different neighbors about her and they both said Dana was an awesome neighbor to have. Now for the update 2 weeks later. I wasn't expecting the original post to blow up the way it did. I'd like to thank everyone for their advice. Turns out the people who said she was into me were right. Dana texted me last Thursday letting me know that her family was going out of town for the weekend. She said she would be lonely and wanted to know if I'd keep her company. She said something like she was grateful to have such a young and strong man in her life, referring to me. I'm 90% sure that means she's into me. I politely declined by telling her that I would be with my girlfriend. Friday night, I was chilling with my girlfriend at home, and Dana knocked on the door. I'm so thankful for my girlfriend because she let Dana have it. We didn't hear anything from Dana the entire weekend. I guess Dana is now mad because she issued an HOA violation for my trash cans being in the wrong place. She was taking pictures of my girlfriend's car parked on the street for whatever reason. Yesterday, I had a conversation with one of my neighbors who let me know that Dana and her husband are apparently in an open relationship because her husband is bi. Anyways, not really my problem, and I'll just deal with them as my neighbors. Ever since my girlfriend had that talk with her, Dana hasn't been on my property. Thanks again for the help. I'd go to the HOA and threaten them with a sexual harassment suit if she keeps it up with the fines and pictures. Yes, but make sure you frame it to the HOA as they are enabling her harassment, they are a vehicle for her harassment, they are making you feel attacked and harassed for not sleeping with her. You plan to hold them liable for it. Don't let them tell you it's between you and her. Tell them that if they continue, you'll be sending them a certified letter with the same information so that you have it on record that you notified them of their role in harassing you. You might have to lawyer up because she will make your life miserable. Save those texts. Have someone testimony your side. Make sure your cameras also record audio and make a diary of things she is overreacting as an HOA. Things will escalate at some point, and you might have to order a protective distance from her and another appointed HOA to supervise her house. Remember to check those HOA rules, item by item. Neighbor sounds like a creep. She sounds like a total psycho. If she's already retaliating against OP by reporting his trash cans to the HOA and taking pictures of his girlfriend's car, then I wonder how she's going to escalate things. Her being the president of their HOA really complicates things. Do what you can to protect yourself. Never be alone with her. She could make up false accusation against you. She definitely sounds like the type to do this too. Completely unhinged, also desperate AF. Next story. My 40 female and my husband 41 male together 6 years. He snooped on my phone and found something I did 16 years ago. Why is he mad? Backstory on my original post. For months, my husband has been suspicious that I'm cheating, even though I've never even messaged another man since before our first date. He snooped on my phone and found a message from 16 years ago. 10 years before we got together where I was short on money and sent a mechanic some nudes in lieu of payment for supplying and fitting an alternator. He called me all sorts of names, and I got mad and told him I'd never trust him again and that I thought he was projecting. On to the update. Like many of you suggested, he was projecting. He's the one who's cheating. I left to stay with my sister for a few days after I wrote that post. While driving past a Premier Inn near her house, I saw his car outside. I waited by it for 3 hours, and eventually he emerged with another woman. He said it was the first time that he thought we'd split up. She turned to him and said, "What are you talking about? Who is this?" referring to me. He literally ran off like a coward. I spoke to the woman, who turned out to be lovely. She said they'd been seeing each other for over a year, but he told me he was living with his religious parents after leaving his wife. That's why they could never go back to his house and always got hotels. She was such a kind young woman, and I ended up having to console her and even took her home myself. As for us, I'm back at home, and he is now staying at his parents' house. His parents were very disappointed in him when they heard the news and have been lovely to me. I've started divorce proceedings, but I imagine it'll take about a year to finalize. Take no prisoners, girl. Ask his lover to testify in your divorce proceedings on your behalf. We won't need to go to court, hopefully, if he just accepts the divorce. A person as controlling and manipulative as him is not going to just accept the divorce. He'll keep you dangling and hoping and use it to keep pulling you back in. Trust me, you don't want to have to depend on this guy's word about anything. It's completely up to you. But if you have decided you want to get divorced, then you should contact a lawyer. They give you a free consultation and greatly facilitate the process. If he's going to be cooperative about getting divorced like he says, then getting a lawyer will only make things smoother because you won't have to figure out which forms to fill out and file. Incredible that he told her he was staying with his parents, and now he is. Yep, it's like he willed it into happening. Lol. He manifested, and it happened. I was married to a serial cheater, and it may suck a bit now, but you are on your way to bigger and better things. That was very nice of you to console her. Please be sure to tend your own emotions as well. Gotta look out for number 1. To be honest, I was already 80% certain I was going to divorce him after the name calling and snooping, so this didn't devastate me as much as it would normally would. I really hope his mother and father know that he abandoned the girl he conned into a relationship at the motel, and that you were kind enough to take her home. What a man. I told him he abandoned a 23-year-old 30 miles from her home. Last story. My 37 female husband, 39 male, went to a work dinner with a woman and was gone 5 hours. Wasn't where he said he'd be, and wouldn't respond to my calls and texts. I kicked him out, and he says I'm overreacting. Can anyone help me make sense of what happened here? My husband of 6 years works in a field where sales reps are constantly vying to get him to use their products. One way they do this is by hosting dinners at upscale restaurants, think expensive steakhouses, and inviting groups to attend a presentation about their product in exchange for a free steak dinner. So far this year, my husband has attended upwards of 40 of these dinners. I find this a little excessive, especially considering we have a 3-year-old and a 5-month-old at home, and I rarely get a reciprocal night out. For context, we've been out together without the kids only 4 times in the past year. I've asked him to cut back on these dinners, but he refuses, saying he hopes to leverage these relationships into brand-sponsored speaking opportunities that could become a temporary source of secondary income. To his credit, this has happened before, and he made good money during his stint as a speaker. However, anytime I complain about the number of dinners he attends, he accuses me of not caring about our financial situation, or even outright trying to sabotage it. From my understanding, he attends far more of these dinners than most people in his field. Now on to the dinner in question. Last week, he forwarded me a screenshot of a text from a sales rep who said she would be in town for 2 nights and wanted to have dinner with just him while she was there. This is fairly unusual, as most dinners are group affairs with friends and colleagues. On one other occasion, he met with a sales rep one-on-one, but it was an older man. This time, it was an attractive woman around our age. I looked her up on social media. They agreed to meet on Monday at 6:30 at a nice tapas restaurant in an expensive part of town because, according to my husband, it was close to her hotel. While this made sense, I raised an eyebrow at his phrasing. He got annoyed. But I pointed out that this was a dumb thing to say to your wife when you're meeting a woman for dinner at a nice restaurant. He left the house at 6:04. For context, I am extremely sleep deprived. I'm up with a new baby several times a night, and my husband has refused to participate in night feedings. By 9, I was exhausted and really wanted to sleep, but the baby was colicky and crying, and it was keeping my toddler awake. I texted my husband to ask when he thought he'd be home so I could have an idea how much longer I'd need to stay up. I said it was no big deal, just give me a ballpark estimate. He didn't respond. He wears an Apple Watch and is constantly responding to texts. So it was annoying that he couldn't give me an ETA after 3 hours at dinner. I called him at 9:15 and he sent me straight to voicemail. I called again at 9:30 with the same results. At this point, I texted him and said I was calling the restaurant. When I did, the host told me the restaurant was empty and confidently stated that no one matching my husband's description had been there that night. I texted him that I was calling his parents to see if they had heard from him. They hadn't. Finally, at almost 10, I texted him and told him not to come home. 15 minutes after my last text, he sent me an automated text from his GPS app saying he'd be home by 10:20. I texted him again and told him to go to his parents' house. He showed up anyway and I wouldn't let him in. He didn't have keys. He said I was acting crazy. He claimed the tapas restaurant was more like his sports bar, so they went to a nicer place across the street. He said his phone was in his pocket on silent, though he had to have declined calls to send me straight to voicemail. He said he was trying to generate revenue for our family. He told me my self-esteem wasn't his problem. He said my behavior had better be a symptom of PMDD. He accused me of creating events in my mind. Long story short, I didn't let him in. He slept at his parents' house and came by the next morning to get his stuff. He's staying with them again tonight after attending yet another dinner, and likely will be for the foreseeable future. I think his behavior was shady and disrespectful to me, but he thinks I've blown the whole thing out of proportion. I'm so tired that I can't make sense of it. I need to ask, am I justified in my anger, or is he right that I'm blowing this out of proportion? Thanks in advance. Now for the top comments. He said a lot of things, but he didn't seem to say, I'm sorry. That's because he's not sorry. Yep, my ex was hunting women on TikTok and LinkedIn. I got justification about his needs, then was mocked about being upset about it, instead of an apology. When they aren't sorry, they don't apologize. It's that simple. He's showing you who he is. We just have to come to terms with that reality versus the one we want. The best case scenario here is your husband just doesn't give a damn about you or your family. That's best case scenario. Worst is what's more likely, that he's cheating. I'm a doctor and have been to these dinners. Your husband is the big fish here, not the rep. They're trying to impress him, not the other way around. There's absolutely no reason he can't step away and take your calls or end it early. And most importantly, no reason he can't say no to dinners in favor of being a father and husband. Also, on what planet does this 35-year-old rep hold the keys to him becoming a lucrative speaker? All of it is BS. Tell him if he's so concerned about financials, he should consider the cost of a divorce, alimony, and child support.
Update. Am I the a-hole for refusing to cook for my stepchildren anymore? Original post. They are 16 female and 15 male. My husband and I have been married for 8 years. They have been living with their mom for a month because we caught the virus. Fortunately, they were with their mom and didn't catch it. Normally, we split custody. Ever since they have returned home, they have been very critical of my cooking. My husband and I usually split chores. He makes the dinner and I make breakfast and lunch. This works for us as my work starts later in the morning while his shift ends earlier in the evening. I try to make them healthy food and spend time with them, but they have been nothing but critical. They make faces, make fun of the dishes I cooked, and compare them to their mom's cooking in a manner which is really hurtful. They have been talked to, and their father has even punished them. They just don't seem to care. My husband seems to think my cooking is fine. Hell, they don't seem to mind my cooking when he heated it up last week. So I stopped cooking for them. They know how to cook. I had taught both of them how to handle themselves around the kitchen last year, and they had no problems before this. I am worried that they're lashing out over something hurtful I did. Teenagers are not known for their emotional maturity, and I fear this will further alienate them. But at the same time, my mental health has improved, and I do not dread mornings anymore. I still make them lunch, but I don't have to hear them talk smack about my cooking due to my schedule. My husband wants me to be the adult here, and I promise to deal with them. He thinks that if I start cooking again, they will calm down. My bonus children are giving me the cold shoulder, and it hurts. But I want to teach them that they have to respect the people in their lives, even if they dislike them. They talked to their mom about it, and she ranted at me and called me names. My husband is making them breakfast now, and they don't seem to mind that change. I had made my peace with them not considering me family. I don't expect them to make me a Mother's Day card or call me mom. I never expected that. That would be amazing, but I know it is not going to happen. I am okay with that. However, I just want them to treat me with respect. Understand that I am an adult in their lives who cares for them and loves them, but they treat me like a servant who also pays for stuff. Now for the top comments. They talked to their mom about it and she ranted at me and called me names. This is why they're treating you poorly. Your husband needs to have a sit down with his ex about bad-mouthing you to the kids. In my humble opinion, you're doing the correct thing. These are not young children. They are teenagers and they damn sure know what they are doing. You don't need to put up with this treatment just because they're kids. They're rude and their words and actions affect other people. This, especially suspicious since things seem to have started up after they spent some time at their mom's, makes me wonder what might have been said while they were over there, especially since, if I'm reading your post correctly, everything seemed fine for 8 years. I doubt their mom was pulling out a full 4-course breakfast for them every day, and even if she was, they can't realistically expect someone else to do the same. So someone's up. Not Dayhall. You said they know how to cook, and if all else fails, they can always go for cereal or a sandwich. They won't starve, and you shouldn't have to put up with their criticism. Oh my god. They're 15 and 16 and someone else cooks them breakfast and makes their lunches? You and your husband are teaching them to remain children instead of becoming adults. It's great that you taught them their way around a kitchen, and no one should be making them breakfast except themselves, especially with their entitled attitude. They're acting like toddlers and your husband is enabling them. You are not Dayhall for setting and maintaining healthy boundaries. Yeah, I was making my own breakfast from a much younger age. And just leave out cereal, milk, and bread for them. I'm worried they are lashing out over something hurtful I did. What did you do that was hurtful? Also, what's wrong with 2 teenagers making their own toast or cereal and fruit in the morning? I was living out of home already by their ages and made my own damn food 3 times a day. But even at, say, 12 to 13, I made my own breakfast and school lunch, and the parental figures would only ever make dinner. They're not young children. They're fully capable of making their own breakfast and lunch. I'm not voting on your Rahal rating until you answer my question about what you think they may be retaliating over. I have been racking my brains thinking about something I did which would cause this reaction. I can't think of anything, and that worries me even more for some reason. Am I being too oblivious to what I did? And now for the update. I made my post, I think, 2 weeks ago, and a lot has happened. I realized that I was not an a-hole for not cooking for them. I continued to not cook for them, and they continued to ignore me. It was hurtful, but I was getting used to it. I talked to my husband about enforcing rules and talking to their mother to ensure that we can solve this issue, but he is reluctant to start drama because he is afraid of going back to the court and having to change the custody agreement. However, all this took a backseat. My father received a very bad diagnosis. It is pretty bad. It sends me to a very bad place, and I was just getting by on autopilot for a week. My stepdaughter walked in on me crying in my room. I think she was looking for her dad. She sat next to me and apologized. She teared up a little and told me that she's scared that I will force Dad to move them permanently to their mothers. That made me cry harder. I told her that even though we may not get on all the time, I always missed them when they were at their mothers and house would feel empty without them here. After this conversation, things are better now. I won't say we are doing fine all the time, but we are doing much better than before. The people who guessed that their mother put them to it were correct. After a bit more talking to my stepchildren, I realized what that something we did that really hurt them. My stepdaughter told me that we didn't call them when we were sick with the virus. But we did. In fact, we were frustrated that they didn't pick up. But we chalked it up to their mother's very strict screen time policy, where the phones are under her care and not with them, and them being busy with classes. We just resorted to texting them. My hypothesis is that their mother knew the passcodes and she was deleting our missed calls when the phone was with her, and then using our lack of calls to drive a wedge between us. I have not told anyone about this theory, but this seems like a good theory. I have let this thing slide for now as I'm more focused on helping my father with his treatment. I really want to thank everyone who commented. I know this is not a happy update, but I want to let people know what happened. Opie, talk to your husband first, but I have an idea. Show your kids your call records and texts you sent when they were at their mom's. They're teens. They're tech savvy enough to understand timestamps and deletions. Tell them you're concerned they didn't get any calls or messages, because you want to make sure they have reliable communication with you and their dad. If your theory is true, The kids will put two and two together and understand who's really the problem. If that's the case, it may be worth talking to a lawyer and revisiting custody. Besides the whole parental alienation thing, interfering with communication with the custodial parent is dangerous and not in the best interest of the kids. I'm sorry to hear about your dad. I hope you're able to spend as much time with him and the kids as possible. This is a really good idea. Opie, I understand you don't want to add any fuel to the drama and your husband's worries, but I think the kids do need to understand what their mother is capable of. I'm sorry about your dad, Opie. I hope it gets better for you both. And it really is a safety issue with emergency communications. What if Dad got into a car accident and the kids needed to come to the hospital? Would the mom just decline calls? What if one of the kids forgot medication at the house? It's not just douchey, it's dangerous. Wow, I'm so sorry for you and your dad, but happy you seem to be on track with the stepkids. Their mother seems to be playing quite a role in this. It's really screwed up. I get so depressed when I read about all the horrible parents out there who use their kids as a weapon. Show stepdaughter the missed calls and messages from your phones. That should convince her that both of you did try to contact them. And contact a lawyer and take X back to court. This is straight up parental alienation. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to be part of my step-family's business? So my mom married my stepdad when I was 12. Both had kids. Mom had me, 25 female, and my siblings, 20 female, 19 male, 18 female, and my stepdad has his three, 18 female, 16 male, 16 female. We lost our dad a year before. Stepdad lost his first wife 3 years before. As the oldest, I blended less well than the others. I'm fine with everyone. I get along with everyone, and I have no problems. But I don't love them. I don't consider my stepdad my dad or even as much as a parental figure as they would like. My step-siblings don't feel the same as my siblings. It's not really a big deal. I can treat them all the same and fake a bond and stuff that I don't feel, and I have no issues with any of them like I said. But I do have some boundaries. Like I kept my last name when my siblings changed theirs. And for Father's Day, my card was always separate from the main one because I was not okay getting him a dad/father Father's Day card. It had to be stepdad. Now, my mom and stepdad want to open up a family restaurant, and my siblings and step-siblings all want to be involved. And I don't. I expressed this to them as not my thing, but my mom knew I was saying no in part because of how I feel. And she told me it was making it very obvious because I have been involved in my paternal family business since high school, and that it looks like an out rejection. I told her the simple fact is, I'm not interested. And they have a lot of people already involved, so it's not like it's a big deal. She told me I'm making myself look like the red-haired stepchild, and I told her that I am a stepchild. I have a step-parent. That's not a bad thing, and it's not something I'm ashamed of. She told me I didn't have to be a stepchild. I could have had another dad. I told her I could have, but I didn't want that. She told me the family business wants and needs me. I asked her, since pictures of the grandparents and deceased relatives are going up on the walls in this idea, would the deceased parents be going up there too? And there was silence. My brother told me they're sad I don't want to be part of it, and it would be such a cool family thing to have. And now my mom's words are stuck in my head. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Seriously? Stay away. If you don't want to be part of it, stay away from it. The restaurant business has a level of volatility that's unlike any other industry. It tears families apart. Starting a restaurant and making a profit from it is very difficult and easily failed. Rent is expensive and overheads are high. I can write a whole essay as to why family restaurants can fail. The hours are long, the work is not fun, and everyone is exhausted at the end of the night. Most restaurants fail in the first few years because it's so difficult. Stick to your decision, Opie. Use any excuse you can, but steer clear of this mess. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. How many family businesses does she think you need to be a part of? And if you've had boundaries since you were 12 about how blended you wanted to be, why is she still harping on this 13 years after the fact? I think she thought I would feel like the odd one out, or like I was missing out on something. But I have never felt that way, and I know that bothers her because she wants me to be a part of it. Clearly not the a-hole. You feel what you feel or even not. It is your choice. If it doesn't feel right to participate, then don't participate. It is only up to you. You don't need to do things just to make others feel better. Do what is good for you. Not the a-hole. It would be counterproductive to put someone who's not passionate about the business responsible for said business anyways. You have your own goals and aspirations that you want to do and should not be chained to a career your family made. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for throwing my sister-in-law and her kids out after calling her a bad person because she called me a bad mom? My 33 female husband's 33 male oldest sister Rachel, 41 female, loves to stop by so her kids can spend time with mine. Rachel can be annoying, but she and my husband have a good relationship and I always wanted to cultivate healthy relationships between everyone. But last weekend, I hit a breaking point and caused some added damage than was already done. Potentially. So, my youngest is 6 and he has sensory issues. He has many issues with clothes. Can't wear certain fabrics, can't stand socks, even needs special underwear and would go around naked if he could. Sister-in-law's always been into knitting sweaters and gives them as gifts. She has also gifted clothes to the kids before. We explained many times about our son, and my husband has said while we appreciate the gifts, he can't wear them without being driven crazy. So she was looking through some photos while she was here last weekend. My husband was working, and she commented that none of the holidays pictures had him in the sweater, and that he never wears the clothes she buys. I was a little frustrated by trying to explain it as easily as I could. She then told me she had something for him, pulls out a pair of space socks and says they would be perfect for him and his interest in space. I told her he couldn't wear them and they drive him crazy. She told me we cater too much to him, that he should be made wear what people buy'd make for him, and I'm not being a good parent letting him go through life rejecting clothes. I lost it. I told her that if I'm a bad mother, then she's a crappy person for judging me when all I'm doing is my best, and for pushing constantly to get her way. I told her we had explained things as clearly as we possibly could, and we have been over this for over 3 years now, and she's still not willing to open her mind to the possibility that we're all just doing our best. She told me good parents help their kids be better than rejecting stuff, and I told her to take her kids and leave because she was not welcome in my home anymore. My husband was pissed at her sister when he heard what went down. And he heard on his lunch break because she sent him 30 messages and left 3 voicemails on his phone. The rest of the family say I should have not treated her like that in front of the kids. And kicking the kids out was wrong. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Thanks for standing up for your kids' sensory issues. I didn't have that growing up and I can still feel awful tights in my legs, scratchy dresses, non-stretch pants. I'm 35 and I buy my favorite clothes in multiples because they feel good. You can tell your sister-in-law to go to hell. And forcing people with sensory issues go wear certain clothes is a special kind of hell in itself. You would think she would take the hint after 3 years of explaining it to her in plain English that the son cannot wear her gifts. Enough is enough. She showed absolutely no consideration for the son's sensory issues. And the nerve of her of pushing her ideology of what constitutes a bad parent just because you allow him to wear what is most comfortable. She can take her snarky butt and her unwanted gifts back with her. Not the a-hole. Isn't it funny that the people who pester you over and over again are always the same people who are shocked to pick at your face when you hit your limit and go off? And somehow always blame you for it. I was only trying to help you. You did not have to lash out for such a small thing. You're too sensitive. How they managed to paint the picture in their mind as them being the victim of this situation appalls me. Not the a-hole. She's the a-hole. Buying gifts you don't want and wanting to force your child to wear them. If she's so positive about wanting the kid to wear it, why not ask you which fabrics she should buy? She's mad because her opinion is not winning an issue that is not about her. Good riddance, in my opinion. Not the a-hole. After being told on previous occasions of your child's sensory issues, it seems a bit disrespectful of her to ignore said issues to continue gifting clothing that your son can't wear. She especially has no right to get angry, invalidate your son's sensory issues, and call you a bad parent for being understanding and accommodating to him. Update. My mom, 60 female, is still pressuring me, 25 female, to add me as a third person on her new $820,000 mortgage. I really don't want to, as my husband and I are looking to buy our own home. She states doing this will build my credit for a new mortgage down the line. Original post. My 25 female mother is 60 female and her boyfriend 60 male had a house in Ottawa which was a nice home. She's always hated the home for reasons I think could have easily been renovated, like new shower tiles, new doors, or adding basic finishes to the basement. It was a new build at a time, 2017. I, as well as the mortgage advisor, advised against it, given that the new home she wanted went for $820,000 and she still had quite a lot left on her mortgage. In the end, the bank pre-approved her and her boyfriend for $500,000 with the knowledge that the rest of the fees will be covered using the profit from her old home. Fast forward to now, she keeps asking me to come on as a third person. Given that with my good job and with a salary of over $65,000, the pre-approval amount will be higher. The issue is, I am now married, and my husband and I are also saving up to buy a home in the next few years. She dismissed it and said doing this with her will build my credit. And when I'm ready to buy a home, the bank will approve me and she will definitely co-sign with us. Is this a thing? Because she went and told her mortgage advisor that I'm interested, but I don't think she gave her the details. Not only that, I'm pregnant and will be going on maternity leave, which means that it's not the time to think about things like this, because I will technically be on employment insurance, which is exactly why my husband and I are waiting until I get back to work, and he gains more seniority in his work. I'm at a loss in what to do because my mom has screwed me over for small amounts of money, so that alone I don't trust her. But it's the fact she's already telling the mortgage advisor I want in, and she's disregarding the fact that I'm married with her own grandkid on the way. However, she did state doing this will build my credit, and it will be easier to qualify for a new mortgage down the line with my husband. Now for the top advice before reading the update. No, the bank will see you as having a massive liability. This will make it much harder, as in the eyes of the bank, you will already be on the hook for a mortgage. You'd also lose your first-time home buyer's land transfer tax rebate too. Parents of my friends tried to do that with their son at 18, buy a house in his name essentially to save the tax. Luckily, he knew about it and said, hell no. Who the heck are those pathetic excuses for a parent? How freaking low must you be to feel okay about screwing over your own child? They rationalize it somehow. People are very good at that. The mortgage you are on will have to be included in your debt ratios when applying for your own mortgage. Having an existing mortgage included in your debts will make it very, very difficult to obtain your own mortgage. Absolutely do not do this. It will make it harder for you to get a mortgage later, as it will be considered your debt. You will be responsible for the mortgage if she doesn't pay it. When you go to get your own mortgage, her co-signing will be useless because she will also already have a mortgage which will be considered. She needs to buy something within her means. If she is relying on your income to be approved for a higher amount, it is not within her means. And now for the update. Last week, I posted what my mother was trying to do, which was have me co-sign her mortgage. Many people have asked for an update. So yesterday, I spoke with a mortgage advisor who not only admitted that my mom was a difficult client, she was trying to do the impossible by getting this mortgage, but he also revealed that the reason she needed me to co-sign a mortgage was because she did not want to listen to his recommendation, which was to return the car she had leased, on which the maturity date is almost due, and to not finance a new car until she gets her mortgage funded, 2 months max. This is to ensure she does not have too much debt, and that her pre-approval amounts stay the same. Instead of doing that, she wanted me on a mortgage so she can increase the funding approval rate and get a new car financed. My husband and I were disgusted and shocked. The mortgage advisor was very honest and stated that if I get in on this, it will significantly reduce my borrowing power, and I will be on the hook for years. He even joked and asked, would you like to stay stuck renting with the inability to borrow and a huge dip on your credit, while she drives the newest fancy cars and lives in a big home? He told us not to do it and think of our future. We're expecting a baby in the fall. To cut it short, most of you are right. She had no intention of helping me in the long run, and it was only to satisfy her wants, while having no issues leaving my husband and baby and I on the hook for almost $1 million. I have confronted my mom, who has yet to answer my texts, and my husband has adjusted that we cut contact with her. I wanted to take the time to thank you all for your honest advice, and to the mortgage advisor who put reality before money. She states doing this will build my credit for a new mortgage down the line. Big lol. This is advice to give teenagers getting their first student credit cards. Absolutely. This would destroy Opie's credit. Opie would have no chance of getting a mortgage in a few years with $800,000 of debt to their name, and all those first-time home buyers' perks would be gone. But Opie's mom would get a new car. Opie, on a serious note, your mom should look out the buyout cost for her leased vehicle versus the resale value. The used car market is crazy right now, and most people can pay X dollars to buy out their lease, then drive the car over to the used car lot and sell it for X plus $5,000 or whatever. That's free money basically, so I highly recommend you look into it. I'm not sure which scenario is worse, that your mother believes this or that she thinks you're stupid enough to buy it. 1. You do not need a mortgage to build credit. Just a credit card that you never use. Paying down would suffice. 2. If you are added on a mortgage/title, you, plus husband if purchasing together, will lose your first-time home buyer credit. 3. Just say no. Refuse to sign any documents. Yes, the mortgage advisor spoke to me about a first-time home buyer plan and how I would lose it if I co-signed this. I knew about this and told my mom. She dismissed it and said who cares because my husband would qualify. True, but really? I recall this post and commend you for making this difficult, but not so difficult decision. As a mother-to-be, you've absolutely made the right choice for your family, and like what your own mother was doing for her child. My answer isn't financial, but is this a pattern of behavior for her? Has she always tried to harm you for her own benefit and tried to guilt trip or manipulate you or others to get what she wants? If so, your husband is onto something with the suggestion of cutting contact with her or at least severely limiting it. She will likely continue to harass, shame and guilt you, telling you how you robbed her of her house. You don't need that now with a baby on the way. When I was younger, 21, I got the opportunity to move to the UK after finishing school. It was all against her wishes as she wanted me to stay in Canada for no good reason. I was living with her and forced to pay $1,000 in rent, plus utilities for living in her unfinished basement. When I told her I wanted to save and ask her to reduce the rent or give me startup money, she blamed me for being bad with money. At the time, I only made about $1,600 a month. Nevertheless, I rebelled, saved my money, got a second job, got the visa, and moved to the UK, which is actually where I met my now husband. When I was there, I was thriving in my own way, a job, apartment, friends, etc. Then about a year later, she would send me WhatsApp messages telling me she's extremely sick and had issues with her nerve muscles which was preventing her to move. She would call me sad and crying. A few months later, I went back only to see she was perfectly healthy and has never been better. She would then ask for money, get me to stay with her, and it's all a blur. But I gave up the apartment, paid what was left of the rent, and ended up staying in Canada, stagnant and paying her $1,000 plus utilities to stay with her. The only good thing that came from this was that I met my husband. We're now here, and he seems to catch on much quicker to my mom's manipulative tactics. Last story is titled, Update. Am I the a-hole for being upset that my siblings are getting my part of an inheritance but I'm not because I'm a recovering addict? Original post. My parents are pretty wealthy. I'm 26, and from 21 to 25 I was in and out of rehabs. I was abusing so many different kinds of substances, and I wasted so much money. I owed it once, and it destroyed my family to watch me go through that. I am intensely ashamed of who I was as a person, and I have been sober for almost a year. My parents are now approaching their late 60s and have started finalizing their wills and inheritance. Yesterday, they sat me down and told me that I will not be getting any of the inheritance, as they don't trust me not to relapse with all that money suddenly in my possession. And as a result, my siblings will be getting my share of the money. I was pretty upset about this, and I said that they were going to make my siblings rich, while I would get nothing from it, and that wasn't fair. I was almost yelling at this point. They told me to calm down, but I was too upset to listen, and I left. I called my brother and sister after I left and told them what my parents said, and they said that it was their choice and there wasn't anything they could do. I accused them of just wanted all the money for themselves and not caring about what happened to me. Today, I have my dad texting me that they are worried about me and disappointed in my behavior yesterday. I talked to my sponsor and he said that while anger is understandable, I have to do everything in my power not to ruin the trust I've built with my family over the past year, and acting like an a-hole addict won't help. Sometimes I still have trouble with my reactions to things now that I'm sober. However, I don't feel as though I'm entirely unjustified here. Am I the a-hole for getting upset? Now for the top comments before reading the update. You're the a-hole because you probably spent your share of the inheritance every time they tried to help you. Seriously? Add up every dollar they've spent on your addiction, or ask them to add it up, and then ask yourself if you deserve any more. Don't forget all the time and emotional labor that goes with all this. How many days off or vacations got sidelined? How many sleepless nights? Emotional/relationship damage caused by things said or done while OP was under the influence. OP, you took up way more than your fair share, and way more than the inheritance is even worth. That's a fair point. As a PS, if you stay sober, your parents will treat you more responsibly over time. 1 year's nothing in recovery. Maybe several years or more down the line, when you're living a respectable life and they see that their money will go into your house, education, or something else which you have built between now and then, they will reconsider. I think timing is a major factor here. It feels like forever. You're the a-hole. Your parents are concerned for your life. Also, your parents are only 60-ish, thus there is a good chance that they will be alive for at least 10 years. I believe USA life expectancy is north of 70. That leaves plenty of time to amend a will. You are only a year out of rehab, so your parents are just making plans for the way things are today. Edit. Just reread that as late 60s, but the point still remains. They have to plan based on today, not based on what could be 10 years from now. But the way things are now won't always be the case. First, congrats on nearly a year. That being said, you spent nearly 1/5 of your life in rehab. I wouldn't blame them for not trusting you yet, especially since I bet you were using before the rehab. I'm guessing your parents paid for that? Not to mention all the attention that had to be put on you. That could have gone to your siblings. Addicts are an Olympic-sized pool's drain on a family's mental health and finances. They worried about you, made sure you were getting help, paid for it, and you repay them by going ballistic about that they won't treat you as if you did nothing to them? Yeah, they did pay for it. And now for the update. My first post wasn't hugely popular, but I wanted to update anyways. After what happened with my parents, I won't lie, I relapsed. I had a weekend where I blacked out. I remember getting back to my apartment and all the drugs and booze I had bought was gone. And it was a Monday morning. It was a lot of stuff. I scared myself so much I ended up calling my parents saying that they were right. And I remembered everyone's advice on my last post and I apologized for how I treated them. And that they were right in not giving me any of their money. I'm now 3 weeks sober and I took Reddit's advice and made a compromise with my parents in regards to my inheritance. If I remain at least 5 years sober and submit to a bi-monthly drug test, they will reconsider my part of the money. I hope they do reconsider. I know I have a lot of work to do and I still have a lot of selfishness to overcome. But I wanted to thank everyone for helping me try to realize that. Here's to 3 weeks and more. You're 3 weeks sober. You relapsed in the past and will likely again. It's pretty normal and expected to fall back. And when you enter group therapy and MAT therapy, they will talk about this with you. You can't and won't beat this alone. You need help. And it's okay to ask for it and use the services available to you. Millions of Americans have substance problems, and it's more common than you think. But there is only one legit solution. You can't expect your family to trust you after 3 weeks. You can't expect them to trust you ever again. It's fully up to them when they will bring that trust back, and you can't do anything about that. Get help. Join the addiction thread. Talk to an addiction doctor and get the ball rolling. They will help you with the withdrawal, family issues, and mental issues caused by the abuse. But most importantly, they will get to the core of your addiction so it can be properly addressed. 5 minutes after I took my first dose of buprenorphine, Subsolve, I never had another craving again. The withdrawal issues washed away, and when I fully gave myself to the program, fully stopped self-diagnosing myself and let the professional doctor do what they are trained in, soon I was honest to them and me. The process became insanely easy. When you fight it, when you try to justify it, when you lie to your doctor or think you know your body best, then you fail. Your parents owe you nothing. It seems like they already saved your life once and spent a lot of money doing it. Make your own money. Not everyone has rich parents. You should just appreciate their unconditional love. They worked hard their whole lives for their money. You were not entitled to it, even if you were sober. Also, be sober for you, not for money. Abso-freaking-lutely couldn't agree more. Being sober for money will kill you when the money comes. Addiction might take a break while you're sober, but it will pick up where it left off and can oftentimes pick up steam for lost ground if it gets traction. A sudden influx of money is almost always a destructive force if your foundation for sobriety is built on anything but a solid cornerstone. You more or less prove their point. At the first hurdle, you immediately used again. If they give you a penny more, you'll just relapse. Way to completely miss the emotional impact of your parents saying they have no faith in you. They could have put the money in a trust and made it accessible in small amounts, conditional on verified and continuing sobriety. They could have not given anything, but cited the fact Opie had already spent his share of the inheritance and all the rehab and care during their bad years. But no, they basically just told him they don't think he'll amount to anything ever again. I'd probably relapse too. Not that I expect better from this sub. The last thread was a judgmental garbage fire, and I'm sure this one will be too. Huge amounts of people just straight up telling Opie is guaranteed to relapse again and is a piece of crap for doing so. That'll sure help him move forward. It's one thing to tell someone to adjust expectations and prepare for a struggle to maintain sobriety. It's quite another for hundreds of people to crap all over the vulnerable person at their lowest point. Nice job, everyone. Hope the self-righteous high was worth it.